What's up? I don't like that. I just dropped that. What's up? Welcome back into another video here on the FanTC YouTube page. We're going to be switching it up a little bit for you this Saturday. Each mock draft video so far has been its own individual video, but we're going to come at you with a doubleheader today. There's going to be two mock drafts in this video, two similar style mock drafts in this video. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be drafting from the early part of the draft in the first one and the late part of the draft in the second one. Kind of see a little bit of different draft strategies you get on both, all in the same video. It's 10 team, full point per reception. So that's a big thing. I think half is probably the most common. I play in a lot of full point per reception leagues. I got to find a smoother way to say that. It's going to get very tongue-tied by the end of this video. But we're going to start this one from the second, and then we're going to see what we can do for this team. We're going to compare it to the team that you draft at the end of the draft, and we're going to see, put it out there on social, see which team likes more. Which team people like more. All right, so let's take a look here. Justin Jefferson should be the number one player taken off the board in full point per reception leagues. Number two for me, and the way that I like it, when I'm going to compare these two, I know here there's going to be a lot of good running backs that not only do I get CMC at number two, but I'm going to get a top tier, someone that I feel could be a top tier level wide receiver and another top-tier level running back on that 2-3 turn. So I can knock out running back super early on the front half of this draft, whereas I feel like on the back half of the draft, you get a lot of those really good wide receivers that fall. Stephon Diggs can sometimes fall to the 9. Sometimes you get a Devontae Adams and Amon-Ra St. Brown in the second round that a lot of people feel pretty comfortable with. Travis Kelce can fall that far. So there's a lot of different things. I think that it's a lot easier to build from the wide receiver position later than now. Now, with that being said, you could go Jamar Chase and then take something like a Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson on the 2-3 turn to lock up the running back position. But for me, I'm not going to go too crazy this year on the wide receivers and think wide receivers are the only thing that can win you your league. I think that's completely idiotic to think about. The running back position is still extremely valuable in fantasy football. And the fact that there's only a limited number of elite level running backs out there just means that their value should be higher. Whereas it seems like their value is going down because there's less elite level running backs. But the guys like Saquon, Nick Chubb, Eckler, if you want to put Robinson as a rookie in there, you can. I feel like you should be. And then CMC, all of these guys should be first-round picks. And then the wide receiver should fill in if you're in a higher tier wide receiver draft like this one, which I understand why. But for me, it just makes no sense that running backs are constantly getting pushed away. So let's see here. Okay, so my strategy's already fallen off a little bit. Both Garrett Wilson's been a guy I've been able to target around this 2-3 turn. He already got taken. I already have CMC. This guy is Justin Jefferson. So for me, again, when I'm doing these mock drafts, I'm also drafting with my thought of a guy like Josh Jacobs. He's going to be there week one. I've said it on the podcast plenty of times. I guess I'll go on the mini rant here. If you're a running back in the NFL and you think you're going to get more value by not playing football and not making money, that is moronic to me. I think you have to play football. You have to keep your value high. Even if you take a whole year without getting hits, look what happened to Le'Veon Bell. There's a direct example of what happens when you take that full year off the NFL. It makes no sense for me to think running backs are going to hold out during the season, not get paid. They're making $11 million a year. Like, as a guy who makes a very median salary as an accountant, if I was told, hey, we don't really want you, but we're going to pay you 3 times what your average is or what you're worth, I guess that's not really a good thing, but for 1 year, and then we're going to let you go, or maybe we'll keep you on for the same price again next year. I don't know. Like, there's just not like a market for the running back position. Like, what are you getting? Are you getting 3 years at $14 million? Like, is that your end goal? Is just the extra year or two of security? Because it just doesn't seem like you're going to get that. I don't know. The running backs to me they're a little bit of a headache. Going with his move here, I'm going to go take Jalen Waddle. He fell all the way to the third round in a 3 wide receiver league. I already got my running backs basically solidified for me, so we're going to take him here. Now, here's where we're going to see a good run of wide receivers come off the board and why I'm excited to draft from the 9th spot in this next draft. Oh my gosh, no way. All right. Wow. This is my second mock draft that I'm doing this morning from the 2 spot. I accidentally dropped a bad word in the first one. They're not going to be extremely clean, but there's just certain words I don't want to put out there on YouTube. I feel like you shouldn't even say, and I just let it slip. Not, again, that's a bad thing to say. It's not a racial thing. God damn. Hopefully only 2 people watch this video like usual. This could just get so ugly for me. Okay. Let's get back to fantasy football. So in the first one, we had a huge run of wide receivers go right here, which basically left none of these wide receivers falling to me. The way that I built this team so far, the fact I can get a guy like a Calvin Ridley or Keenan Allen on this turn, I'm in love with. I'm just going to play the ADP game. I'm going to go Calvin Ridley. My hope is that Keenan Allen falls back around to me. He does, so I'm taking Keenan Allen. I have Jalen Waddle, Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen for my wide receiving core in a draft where I also have Christian McCaffrey and Josh Jacobs. This one may be hard to beat. Now, we're not going to have an elite tight end. We're not going to have an elite quarterback, so there's always some room for maybe the second draft we can get one of those guys. But I'm pumped with the way this team is working out so far. Pierce, Akers, Sanders. So Sanders, middle of the 5th. Towards the middle of the 5th now. Okay. Let's see. I wouldn't mind going Lawrence. I don't think Team 1 has a quarterback. And the way the AI thinks, since everyone else already has a quarterback and there's only one at this level, I think they're going to immediately snag up Trevor Lawrence. I like Trevor Lawrence. If you haven't, check out our quarterback draft strategy show. For me, I think Trevor Lawrence is the last guy out of this tier that I feel okay spending this much of a pick on. After that, I'm pretty much just willing to wait until like Geno Smith or something like that later. So since it's a mock, we're going to take Trevor Lawrence. We're going to get the stack with Calvin Ridley. We're going to see how that pans out for us. And then, so here's something with DeAndre Swift, which is kind of concerning. I heard rumblings that there's a chance he gets cut from the Eagles. Not like a guaranteed source or anything like that, but he may potentially not be on the team. And if that's going to be the case, where he's going in drafts is wild. At this point in the draft, there's still good enough players out there to build your team around. You shouldn't have to feel like you're taking a guy who may not make the roster. A guy I know for sure is making the roster is Alexander Madison, so I'll just snag him up here and just solidify 3 workhorse running backs. This tier of tight end, I don't necessarily want too much of. I don't mind taking the shot on Pitts or Goddard, whichever one falls later. Okay, what wide receivers we got? Oh, Deontay Johnson went at the 7-8 turn. That's who I thought I would be able to get here. So with it being a turn, we can't go Evan Ingram, obviously, because of having Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley already. George Pickens has not been a very exciting draft pick for me. I think he has some just wow factor to him, but I kind of said this maybe on a podcast. Maybe it was on our news and notes section whenever we talked about his highlight catch. When you're making those highlight catches and they could have just been caught normally, that's not like the best thing in the world in my opinion. I don't think it deserves the hype that it gets. Like, if I throw you a ball, it hits you in the chest and you bobble it and dive to catch it, I guess you made the catch, but you also could have just caught it out your chest and none of that would have been needed. So I'm going to say my jury is still out on George Pickens. I don't think that I want him. I think he's going to be a lot of what he was last year. So I'm going to take Jordan Addison and bet on the rookie upside. I'm not the biggest fan of Jordan Addison. I think I've taken KJ Osborne in a couple of best ball drafts because you can get him pretty late. I think he's a value wide receiver. But if we're being honest, I think Jordan Addison still has some upside potential. Obviously, in that offense, Adam Thielen gone there. I mean, there's a clear number 2 wide receiver role that can be taken if Jordan Addison is that guy. So don't hate it. There's only 2 teams without tight ends. You'd think they'd go Evan Ingram, Pat Freiermuth, and that'd open up David Njoku for me all the way in the 10th. A little bit of a prayer there, but I'd take that all day. I'd also take Njoku now just to solidify that. Yep. I think I'm going to actually. I'm gonna jump Ingram and Fryermuth. I'm gonna grab Njoku. If I was here and all three of those guys were on the board and I did not have Calvin Ridley, I'd probably go Evan Ingram over Njoku because I think that Evan Ingram and that Doug Peterson offense can be pretty good, really good, not pretty good. So that, I had a sneeze. So here, when I'm drafting in a 10-team league, like we look at the starting lineup, Trevor, Christian, Josh Jacobs, Jalen Waddle, Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen, Alexander Madison, and Jordan Addison as our first bench spot. Give me Zach Charbonnet. I feel pretty confident with the running backs that I currently have. I won't necessarily need him for a while, and if he's not being used or to the extent that I want him to be, I can definitely just go ahead and cut him. And then if I want, and then if he is, I mean, he can either be someone who just rides my bench and is an injury protection, or could potentially, could take over Alexander Madison as my flex option. Rashad Penny's interesting because I think you're going to know pretty quick whether or not you want to keep Rashad Penny on your team. It's a lot of running backs for a 3 wide receiver draft. 1, 2, that'd be 5 running backs. I think I'd almost rather have taken Rashad Penny instead of Zach Charbonnet and then taken another wide receiver here. We're just going to take Elijah Moore because of the camp hype that's coming out, and I feel like I need another wide receiver on this roster. But if I could go back, I would have taken Rashad Penny over Zach Charbonnet just because if I don't see anything out of Penny in the first week or two, I know I can cut him and feel pretty comfortable about it. So here's team 1. Let's take a little screenshot so we can put it on social. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this team. Trevor Lawrence, CMC, Josh Jacobs, Alexander Madison, Zach Charbonnet, Jalen Waddle, Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen, Jordan Addison, Elijah Moore at my wide receiver position, and then David Njoku as my boom bust tight end, my third to last pick. So I'm pretty happy with that. Is there anyone that I feel like I could have taken differently? I don't necessarily think so. I feel like this one I had a lot of players really fall to me that I wanted. This guy here is probably taking Trevor Lawrence instead of one of these two, so I have to take Lawrence here. I'm pretty happy with this draft, I got to say. I think that for the 2 spot, it's a really solid team. Okay, we'll just back out real quick. New NFL mock draft. Everything should be the same. I don't need to do that. Jump right on in here to the 9 spot, and we'll just actually get it going. We'll just jump on into it. Already about 15 minutes, so I was hoping for about a 30-minute video. Pretty content with that. Wow, Kelsey in the 3. It didn't really mess up any of the top 7 or 8, so I don't hate it too much, but I do think that's a little risky. He's got to lap the field again in tight ends to be worth the 3rd overall pick, and I just think that it's going to be a little bit more even. So for me here, I'm going to take Nick Chubb with my second round pick without a doubt. Again, it's another 3 running back, 3 wide receiver draft. And I just feel like I have so much value at running back right now. This is tough. Bijan or Saquon? Okay. We're going to do it. I thought that I was going to have some better value at wide receivers fall to me. I guess I don't know really where I was seeing that number. I guess Stephon Diggs would have been the guy I thought could fall. But let's see what value we get at wide receivers down here. Oh my gosh. We can't take Devontae Smith. He's going to be our 4th round pick because there's no way this guy's taking A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Right, Sleeper? Right? There's something in your AI that won't let them do that. So we're going to take a guy who can be their number one option on their team. We're going to go Chris Olave over T. Higgins. He's going to snag up T. Higgins, and then we're going to snag up Devontae Smith. I love the start of this draft now. I did not think that this draft would be able to be as good as the other one, but I'm pretty content with it so far. Saquon and Nick Chubb. And then I have Chris Olave and Devontae Smith as my 1 and 2 wide receiver. I didn't think I was going to get that good of value there. Okay. We're just going to take Amari Cooper, and whichever one of the two of Joe Mixon and Miles Sanders fall back around to us, we're going to snag up. You've got to be fucking kidding me. Holy crap. Okay. Now, which one do you want? I've drafted a lot of Miles Sanders in these. I think people know how much I love Miles Sanders, but in full point per reception, I think I got to go Joe Mixon. I think I saw like he was on pace for 100 targets last year or something like that. I think I heard that this morning listening to a podcast. Got to jump all over that when you get the opportunity. Now I'm back to another super balanced build. We'll see what quarterbacks and tight ends fall down to the boy. Again, we have another value, I feel like, on Trevor Lawrence. This time I'm going to play it a little bit more riskier, though. I'm going to take two players. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because I would take Trevor Lawrence here every single time in a real draft. And I guess it makes sense one, two. He didn't take a quarterback, did he? No. Okay. I gotta take that. I gotta take that quarterback. I like Trevor Lawrence. I think he's gonna move around a little bit more this year. Now we're in the eighth. Boom bust wide receiver Mike Evans in the eighth round. I'll take that all day. Okay, let's see what we got here. The great news is we're most likely going to have our choice at tight end. Now, do we want to stack Ingram and Lawrence in this draft? Yeah, we do. All right. We got three running backs. Okay, so for me, this is just a tidbit for anyone who's still watching the video at this point. In full point per reception, if you take Brian Robinson, you don't know fantasy football. That is the worst pick you can make, especially when his teammate, the pass catching option on that team, Antonio Gibson, is there. You got to take that all day. I wouldn't take Brian Robinson if he was in the last round in full point per reception. He just does not catch the football. He brings no value in full point per reception leagues to your team. All right. Last pick of the draft. I'm in the same situation. I have one. Dude, this roster just lags so bad. Nick Chubb, Saquon, Joe Mixon, Antonio Gibson. I have Mike Evans. So do I want to grab an extra wide receiver or do I want to grab Rashad Penny? I'm pretty happy with my top three. I mean, Rashad Penny's really going to be riding the bench at best, so we'll grab Elijah Moore again. Again, kind of the same strategy to end the draft like we did last time, but I think this is a good debate. I think both teams are pretty good. Both teams are built pretty similarly. I think Joe Mixon in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th round is probably the best value I've gotten in a draft in a couple of weeks. We got Trevor Lawrence heading this team again. That's going to be a wash, obviously, between the two. Now, the running backs, we have Saquon, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, Antonio Gibson, and full point per reception. I'm ecstatic with those. Chris Olave, Devontae Smith, Amari Cooper, Mike Evans, Elijah Moore for our wide receivers. And then Evan Ingram versus David Njoku at the tight end position. I think either of those two guys are great. Like I said, I would have taken Evan Ingram over David Njoku last time if I didn't have Calvin Ridley. And now this time, since I don't, I'm going to take Evan Ingram. Be a man of my word there. But, damn, we went through that second one fast. Holy crap. Obviously did not talk as much during that second one, but let's get the screenshot for socials. Oh, no. Can I edit this still? Come on. Come on. Come on. All right, there we go. Got that. Let me know in the YouTube comments which team you would prefer. Do you prefer Team 1 out of the 2 spot or Team 2 out of the 9 spot? I think both are pretty good. I'd be pretty happy with either one of those two starting my fantasy league. But let me know which one you prefer in the comments. Peace out, everybody.